Hello everybody and welcome to the stream. Tonight we're gonna record a Private Citizen episode, which is not surprising since it is Wednesday. I'm gonna record that live on stream, then I'm gonna edit it live on stream and put it out. And then I hear Jonathan is up for some Tarkov, so after that, to reward myself for all the work, I'm gonna jump into Tarkov and we're gonna play duos for a little bit. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good Wednesday. And that's the plan. We shall do this as usual. While I'm recording the podcast, alerts are muted, and I will not interact with chat as much as I usually do, but I will afterwards when it's recorded and when I'm editing, and for the rest of the stream. So that's what we're doing. I got my show notes here. Let's make them less wide. Let's do a very quick test recording here. Those are armed. Hello, 1, 2. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Soundboard. What do we want?
Goddamn Ruskies! Hopachki! Чики-брики, пальчик выкинь.
Right, that looks like it's working. Let's test. You're not hearing this, by the way. This is just on my audio channel, but some audio routing shit that I just can't change right now. But you don't really have to hear that. I mean, maybe during the editing it would be helpful. I might, I can switch audio sources then. We'll leave it like this now, though. Just to be sure. And I think we can get this show on the road. Quick sip of Earl Grey hot. Yeah, that works. Let's do this. Let's get going here. Why is that? Wait. That's a bit low. Why is it that low? Wait. Oh. Maybe because of that. Yeah, that's better. Right. Let's delete that crap and start over. Take 2. You're listening to The Private Citizen, defending your right to have something to hide, your podcast about anything you need to know to defend your rights as a private citizen. This is episode 65 for Wednesday, the 14th of April, 2021. Insane cloud stupidity. Hello everybody, I'm your host Fab, coming to you live from Düsseldorf in North Rhine-Westphalia, the capital of the federal state of North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany. So that's the big federal state in the west where all the steel and all the coal used to come from, and now we mainly have unemployment. How are you doing? Welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk a little bit about an IT security topic. Yeah, privacy is involved, and generally company, what companies do these days, and why it's not the smartest thing. we're going to talk about Ubiquiti, which is a story that broke in March, beginning of April. I first missed it because I tend to not read any news on April the 1st for obvious reasons. I tend to just take that day off mostly or do other things. And I kind of missed it in the beginning. Then I saw it, found it very interesting, but had some other episodes prepped. So, that's how it... Will you not stop? Will you not play any audio? Damn it. That's not good. That's how it goes. I tend to, I err on the side of editorializing the podcast in a way where I want to do the things I want to do when I want to do them. It's not really a news show. I talk about news, but I also want to talk about more the things that are behind the news, which is actually something that I feel is very much what my listeners want as well. And we're gonna hear from you guys, from the producers, from the listeners later, because I have a lot of feedback. So this might be a long episode. Settle in, get yourself a drink. I'm rocking some Earl Grey, which is very hot. This cup is extremely hot. So I have to be careful while I drink it. But it's very nice. It hits the spot. Anyway, but before we get into the topic of today's show, I want to have a little bit of housekeeping here at the beginning. There's something cool I wanted to relate. A journalist contacted me a while ago, and she's an editor for Balkan Insight, which is, I think it's like I've come across them before. It's like a non-profit thing, and they sponsor journalism, and that's like their main website, and it's all about, the Balkans and news centered on the Balkans. And she listens to the podcast, and she listened to some episodes that I did about, we've talked about encrypted communication a lot, because obviously it's, something that I think should be close to everyone's heart, privacy. And the privacy of your communications. But we also talked about how that is circumvented, how the police circumvents that. And we talked about these cases when they break these encrypted phones that criminals use. And she was writing a story about that. So she asked me for some comments. And I thought that was pretty cool. So that came about because of this podcast, which I thought was interesting. Anyway, so all kinds of people listen to this podcast. Pretty cool. But with that, let's get into the belated. Let's say the news topic of this episode, even though it's a bit belated. I mostly just shoehorned that in there because I wanted to play that bumper because I like that bumper very much. Yes, so we're gonna talk about Ubiquiti, and because they had a pretty bad data breach, and then they handled that really badly, and I think it's a very good example of several levels of stupidity that befalls modern companies. And, all the... Maybe I should have a quick disclaimer here. I said this before, but generally when I talk about this, if you work at the company, I'm not talking about, I don't really want to rank on, individual employees here. It's most of the time, it's not their fault. When I talk about companies, people like to these days to say, oh, yeah, that's capitalism. I've explained on the show many times why I don't think that is a good idea and why that term is misused. But when I kind of rag on companies, my problem is mostly the management, legal, and often consultants they bring in. This is something I watch a German YouTuber, Helter Steine, who talks a lot about Lego and bricks, the market, not only, Lego, but comparable bricks and stuff. And he talks a lot about like why companies lost their way. And this obviously started with Lego, which he was a huge fan of. And he catalogs, as somebody who sells the bricks, he catalogs how the company went wrong in recent years. And he, as somebody who's worked in big companies before, so, he used to be a banker at some point, he describes how this is often the fault of just like, management that just gets brought in, has nothing to do with the project, the product, never used the product. And then often like these consultants, right? These companies, consulting companies that come in, controlling, and they do all these crazy things. And those are mostly the people I blame for stuff. And I think when we talk about Ubiquiti today, those are the same kind of people that fuck this all up. But if from the outside, if you aren't affected, it's kind of a hilarious story. Maybe before we get into this, what is Ubiquiti? I mean, I'd heard of them before. They make routers, right? They make network devices. I heard of them years ago. They were kind of, for a while, they were kind of the go-to company for like nerds who are built like a home. If you wanted to have a like relatively elaborate like home network, they made some really good devices that were really powerful and quite cheap, like for what they did. These days, they mostly market themselves like with cloud and internet of things and smart home kind of stuff. Which is all warning signs to me. But I kind of knew of the name because, was hosting a Linux podcast for quite a while called Linux Outlaws. And one of our things was because I'm very interested in copyright and license, software licenses and their enforcement. We talked a lot about these topics, and Ubiquiti came up, I think. At least I know them from, like, basically they've been accused of violating the GPL. In one case, hilariously, I think they were shipping, I think it was U-boot, like the Ubuntu kind of bootloader thing, and they were shipping that. And then they made a configuration error, which introduced a security vulnerability in their systems. And one of the reasons they weren't fixing it fast enough, and like the community couldn't fix it because basically they didn't release the source code of the changes they did. At least I think that's how at least it was reported that, that they violated the GPL in that way. Mode 7, actually, hello. I didn't mention this. Of course, I record this like every show now. I record this live on Twitch. If you want to see how the sausage is made, you can tune in on Wednesdays when I stream this. fab.industry/stream. You can, but there's also links in the show notes at privatecitizen.press. There's also links to the YouTube videos. Twitch records these streams and I put them up on YouTube afterwards. Anyway, Mode 7 is in Twitch chat and says they make huge wireless backhauls and big wireless ISPs will use them. I was gonna say, I think they kind of started in kind of the home consumer small business market, but they've since branched out into big business. They're now mostly known for like their wireless. I think the routers were always wireless routers as well. They have like these wireless devices. And keeping that in mind, what Mode 7 said there, which is actually great insight, this makes this whole story even more hilarious. So, and back in the day, they came under fire for, GPL. They were the target of GPL enforcement actions, I think. Now, what makes this whole thing hilarious is they basically made 3 mistakes that I've kind of cataloged. And we start with mistake number 1, which I've titled, Let's put it all into the cloud. Because why not? So, Ubiquiti, they have kind of still like a following of like geek people who really like their hardware for hacking around with stuff. Back in the day, was people who had like their home network and had servers on their home network. I think these days it's because there's lots of people who kit out their smart home. Not the guys who buy a solution, but the guys the guys I used to work with at Heise when they have their smart home. And at one point I remember I was talking to I think it was Nico who had he built the smart home at home privately, and he was writing articles about it, and I was like, what do you actually do with like changing the color? And he listed all these things. I'm like, this is all really boring. Can you like make a big red button that you hit, and then it just the light flashes red, and Sonos starts, or whatever connected speakers he was using, like starts playing Red Alert like from Star Trek. He's like, okay, I'm gonna do that. And he came back like 3 days later or something with a video where he'd recorded in his house where he just has a big red button on like his remote on his iPhone, whatever it was. And he hit that, and literally all the lights in the flat, every single light started flashing red. And it just went nyeh, 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 red alert. That was pretty cool. Anyway, those guys, right? I think a lot of these people really like Ubiquiti and their devices, and which makes it even more hilarious what they did next. So what they did is somebody in the company, I'm guessing management or some middle manager, some idiot had the idea. Hey, let's make all these devices. This like this router, that sits under like your table, like next to your computer or whatever, that you look at, that has like lights that blink and shit. Let's make all these require you to log in via like cloud authentication. What Seven says, that's the only reason to have a smart home. Yeah, I kind of think so as well. It's kind of cool, but it kind of loses its appeal after a while, I think. But it is cool. Anyway, so I had another great idea recently, because I'm playing like Escape from Tarkov, right? Where there's all this like this Russian post-apocalypse, you're like in this fictional Russian city that's gone to shit, and there's like all these guys that are just running around trying to survive. It's basically like Stalker. And they have all these voice lines. They have like, I extracted them from the game because I wanted to look at them. And they have like hours of just Russians, saying things like,
Опачки.
Or
Чики-брики, пальчик выкинь.
Like stuff like that, right? But they have the best taunt in there's literally, how you press a button and then your character goes, you fucking asshole. They have like that for the Americans. They have that for the Russians. But the Russian, like the scavs, like the random guys you play, like the random survivors, there's like one taunt. You click that button and you get usually you get like a 2 or 3 second taunt. There's like one of them that's 29 seconds long, and it's basically as far as I understand from the internet, it's basically every Russian swear word that you can think of in a row. Just shout, fuck your mother. It's like amazing. It's like 29 seconds like that. And that gave me the idea, if I had a smart home, right, which I never gonna have, but like if I had one and I had like an intrusion detection system, right, you can set them up so that they play like dog barks or whatever. Somebody comes in the door that it doesn't recognize. I would just have them like play these Russian, somebody comes in your house and like the first thing he hears is like the cocking of an AK, and then
Чики-брики, пальчик выкинь.
or like some Russian just swearing at him for like 29 seconds. That would be so hilarious. That would be really good. Actually, I should actually play this for you now, shouldn't I? I wonder, do I have that? I probably have that. So if you're in Russia right now, if you speak Russian, and if you have any kids close that speak Russian, you should probably turn off the podcast now, because I'm now going to play something that I think is just a lot of swearing. I just have to find the specific audio file. Where is it? I swear to you, it's worth it. Wait, yeah, I think it's this. So this is like you press a button in the game and this happens.
Ублюдок, мать твою! А ну иди сюда, говно собачье! Решил ко мне лезть? Ты засранец вонючий, мать твою, а? Ну иди сюда, попробуй меня трахнуть, я тебя сам трахну! Ублюдок, анонист чертов! Будь ты проклят! Иди, идиот, трахать тебя и всю семью! Говно собачье, жлоб вонючий! Дерьмо, сука, падла, иди сюда, мерзавец! Негодяй, гад, иди сюда, ты говно! Жопа!
That, my friends, is the greatest taunt in video game history. I would just play that. Just imagine somebody breaks into your house and that's like the first thing they hear, full tilt. Like, Sonos full on playing that. That would be cool. But anyway, so they were like, Ubiquiti was like, you know those routers, you know how you log in like on your network to them, you know, put them on the network, they get like an IP, you go to the IP, or like the fancy ones, like, you know, my Fritzbox, you go to fritz.box, and you end up there and whatever. They were like, let's make it so that's not on your local network. Like you log into the box, but your credentials actually not stored on the machine, but they're in the cloud, right? So all your Ubiquiti devices have the same login, whatever. It's amazing, but they're in the cloud, right? And I don't know what that company is like, but at that meeting, I mean, it's a tech company, right? At that meeting, somebody should have said, "Are you fucking insane?" I mean, you can make that an option if you really want. If this was my company, I would not make that an option because it's dumb. We're talking about routers here. But, I mean, you could make that an option. And if you're really crazy, you could make that a default. But you cannot force all our customers to use this. But that's what they did. They pushed out firmware updates. Mode 7 says Netgear does that too. Yes, they do for some devices. We're talking Ubiquiti did it, as far as I can tell, for all their devices that were supported, got this like mandatory firmware update when this started, right? So all the customer base was like, "Are you fucking retarded? What are you doing? What is this?" Right? Let me repeat this. A router manufacturer made it mandatory to log into your router, which is on your local network, via the cloud, right? Not to mention what happens when their fucking servers are actually not working. This is hilariously dumb. This is insane, right? At this point, if I had a product from this company, or at this point, I'm never buying anything from this company. Any company that at one point in history was this dumb, I'm never going to buy any products of. I mean, and like, the amazing thing is people complained and they never rolled it back. So that was their first mistake. Now, it's really easy to see how that can bite you in the ass, this kind of thing, security-wise. And I could now go into explaining how that works, but I won't, because this is exactly what happened next. So this actually happened to them. So they're a really good textbooks example of what not to. I mean, this first mistake is like dumb. It's like the thing. It's like I listened to a little bit of Security Now with Steve Gibson, where they were talking about this topic as well. And Steve goes like, "I'm seeing like this thing in as long as I've been doing this podcast, where people just do something because they can, right? And these days it's like, put it in the cloud because you can." And I feel like there's I don't know what the reasoning behind that is. I think it's a kind of lock-in. That's the first reason. I think that's like, if you tie everything to your cloud, like you have a few, as a company, you get closer to your customer, right? You know what they're doing, when they're doing it. You get a lot of their data. I think that's like a customer, like tying, it's kind of like Adobe going to, cloud-based, or Microsoft going to cloud-based software, which is a bit different, because for them that's like a subscription model that also goes into that. But like this feels like kind of the same thing. And plus, they probably want to gather data. They probably don't know what they want this customer data for, but they're like, "Hey, look at the most expensive companies right now, right? And except like maybe Apple, like Google, Amazon, like they all make their money from collecting data about their customers. So that's really cool. So we should do that too. And why not? Like, storage space is cheap." And that seems to be the reasoning behind this, which is completely done. So Mode 7 asks, "Was this across the entire line of devices? I use point-to-point radios and I either missed that update or it didn't apply to them." As far as I can tell, yes. It could be that they're just not supported anymore, or maybe they don't use, as far as I can tell, they use like a web server, of course, on the device to do that. Maybe they have some devices where that didn't apply. I mean, it certainly wasn't all of their devices. From the numbers we have, it was a a large part of their install base, and including the enterprise. So, I mean, there were people in their forums apparently for months complaining like, dude, this isn't like we're a company, like we have security SOPs. We can't fucking, first of all, we provision all of our networks offline, right? They don't have an internet connection when we install all the devices. That would be dumb from a security. Like, we can't do this. So they definitely did this kind of shit for like hardcore, for the hardcore enterprise stuff. But just incredibly dumb. And it bit them in the ass in the following way. Mistake number 2. Be clueless about security. Now, this whole story broke because Brian Krebs, who is a really good freelance IT security journalist, who broke a lot of stories in the past, which of course then leads to people knowing his name, which leads to whistleblowers contacting him. He wrote so Ubiquiti did like a press release about a breach. And Krebs quickly reported on that, and then he got contacted by a whistleblower who works within Ubiquiti, and who was one of the people tasked with actually figuring out what happened in this breach. And he was like, they're completely lying and trying to push this under a rug, right? They're trying to cover this up to save the stock price. And so here is what happened. What the whistleblower, so the whistleblower working at Ubiquiti says the following thing happened. So it turns out their Ubiquiti's back. So all these servers that they use for this cloud login are at AWS, Amazon Web Services. And according to the story by Brian Krebs, the attackers had gained administrative access to Ubiquiti servers at Amazon's cloud service, which secures the underlying server hardware and software, but requires the cloud tenant to secure access to any data stored there. Quote, they were able to get cryptographic secrets for single sign-on cookies and remote access, full source code control contents, and signing key exfiltration. So this is what the whistleblower says. Basically, somebody managed to hack Ubiquiti's AWS account. Now, normally, that would be one thing, as this story says. By the way, if you want to read up on this, as usual, links and everything, quotes and everything I use in the show are on privatecitizen.press /episode/65 in this case. So they broke into Ubiquiti's AWS. Now, usually, that's you have servers in there, right? And usually it would be gaining access to that AWS account would be one thing. I mean, you can do a lot of mischievous stuff with that, but generally, you would keep these credentials apart from the actual credentials used for the virtual machines, the actual servers running in AWS. And they would be encrypted. So having access to, AWS, to the account, would allow you to probably download, get those images, but you wouldn't be able to break into the encryption. Now, the problem is what Ubiquiti did was twice as dumb. Not only did, they lose access to the AWS administrator, access credentials, they also didn't secure those servers properly. And well, they did other dumb stuff, but we'll get to that later. So that made stuff even worse. And how did they get all of that? How did whoever attacked Ubiquiti get access to their AWS account, you ask? Well, the attackers had access to privileged credentials that were previously stored in the LastPass account of an Ubiquiti IT employee, and gained root administrator access to all Ubiquiti AWS accounts, including S3 data buckets, all application logs, all databases, all user database credentials, and secrets required to forge single sign-on SSO cookies. So basically, they got everything. They attacked some administrator, got access to his LastPass account, which, is also in the cloud conveniently. And that enabled them to get everything. And with that, because Ubiquiti was as dumb to require everybody to log in via the cloud, and an attacker now, I mean, this happened in December, I think, and an attacker now had access to all of that. That means they had access to all these devices, right? Because they had like root access to the servers that the device is logged into. So they could have gotten access to any router, any network device that uses this Ubiquiti cloud login. And this, my friends, is why you don't do cloud login for like mission critical fucking networking devices on your network. Right? I'm not saying you shouldn't do anything, any cloud, like with some stuff it actually makes sense. But with devices like that, it fucking doesn't make sense. Not only is like the upside minimal, and you have lots of problems, like if their server's down or fucking you wanna, I don't know, provision your network while you're actually offline. No. It's a huge security risk. Because, I mean, you gotta think about this. Not only, I mean, it's one thing if they had like credentials for like devices that are hard to find. But these are networking devices. A lot of these are like edge devices. They're like edge routers. They're like really easy to find. Like trivial. They're search engines for this kind of shit. Right? So you can find them. And if you're the attacker and you have access, you can just like own all these devices. It's so incredibly dumb, but also a bit hilarious. Right. As the story goes on, such access could have allowed the intruders to remotely authenticate to countless Ubiquiti cloud-based devices around the world. According to its website, Ubiquiti has shipped more than 85 million devices that play a key role in networking infrastructure in over 200 countries and territories worldwide. So the whistleblower says this happened in December. Continuing on quoting from the story at crapsonsecurity.com. Ubiquiti's security team picked up signals in late December 2020 that someone with administrative access had set up several Linux virtual machines that weren't accounted for. Then they found a backdoor that the intruder had left behind in the system. When security engineers removed the backdoor account in the first week of January, the intruders responded by sending a message saying they wanted 50 Bitcoin, about $2.8 million US, in exchange for a promise to remain quiet about the breach. The attackers also provided proof that stolen Ubiquiti source code and pledged to disclose the location of another backdoor if their ransom demand was met. Ubiquiti did not engage with the hackers. That's actually quite kind of smart for once. Ubiquiti did not engage with the hackers, and ultimately the incident response team found the second backdoor the extortionists had left in the system. The company would spend the next few days furiously rotating credentials for all employees before Ubiquiti started alerting customers about the need to reset their passwords. Now, I hope they also fucking reinstalled their whole infrastructure, but I don't think they're smart enough to do that, to be honest. Right. So, like, you fucked up. You're a network device manufacturer, and you fucked up really badly. Not once, but twice. And that led to you getting owned. Right? The first fuck up, if they had secured the service correctly and compartmentalized their authentication, their logins or whatever, had single sign-on for the fucking, so I don't know what, like then this would at least like have been, I mean, it would have been bad, but it would have been like, a disaster, probably. But, this is why you need defense in depth, because, somebody gets in one way where they actually couldn't actually do that much. Maybe he could have taken like the whole cloud infrastructure down, whatever, but then they would have realized, if you also fuck up security in other places, then people can just like chain these vulnerabilities and they can like own you like really bad. And that's what happens. So you fucked up big time. What do you do as a company? right? Do you go like, sorry, we fucked up, and this is how we fucked up because we want to regain the trust of our customers who bought this networking gear? Or do you go and cover it all up? Guess what they did? Yes. Mistake number 3, propagandize hard. They took a page out of Bernays. One could say Goebbels, but Bernays invented that whole shit. And they went like full propaganda, right? They went like, oh, damage control. We cannot tell them what actually happened. We're not gonna lie, like on paper, right? We're just gonna say things. This is how PR works, right? You don't lie, or you don't lie when you can get caught in that. What you do is you basically say things that are factually correct, but like completely misrepresent the big picture. That's exactly what they did, right? Like any good corporate sleazeball would. So according to Brian Krebs, instead of asking customers to change their passwords when they next log on, as the company did on January 11, this is actually what the whistleblower said. Instead of asking customers to change their password when they next log on, as the company did on January 11th, Ubiquiti should have immediately invalidated all of its customers' credentials. No, it's actually Krebs, I think. Anyway, should have immediately invalidated all of its customers' credentials and forced a reset on all accounts, mainly because the intruders already had credentials needed to remotely access customer IoT systems, right? So we don't know if they did that. Ubiquiti, I think, doesn't know if they did that, but you have to do that. I mean, it's really shitty, and it's gonna cause a lot of support work and a lot of inconvenience. But that is what you have. That is the price you have to pay if you force all the customers to use your cloud login, and then you lose the key to the kingdom and get repeatedly raped in the ass by some hacker, right? That's what you have to do then. You have to assume that like saying, oh, change your passwords and send everybody an email is not enough, right? They could have just invalidated the credentials, right? And then, forced people to like send they have an email address because it's like cloud, send a like clean their system and then send these people a link to the email address, associated with the account, and say, okay, you will have to reset your passwords now, because we have to assume they're broken. But no, they didn't do that. Why did they not do that? Because that would have alerted people to how bad it was. And they would probably have gotten away with it if there wasn't a whistleblower and he hadn't contacted Krebs. Which is why whistleblowers are so fucking important. Which is why when you go to privatecitizen.press, there's a contact link, and I have a whistleblower contact form. And that's why I did a whole episode on why look it up. I know. Why do I say look it up? That's kind of my job, isn't it? Right. I'm going to do some quick research here. What episode was that? Quick search for whistleblowers here. Episode 36 from the 26th of August 2020. The importance of whistleblowers. That's why we need whistleblowers. Anyway, now Krebs is quoting the whistleblower. Quote, Ubiquiti had all them hard English words. Me with my country line, I have no idea how to pronounce them words. Ubiquiti had negligent logging, no access logging on databases. So it was unable to prove or disprove what they accessed, but the attackers targeted the credentials to the databases and created Linux instances with networking connectivity to set databases, the whistleblower wrote in his letter. Actually quite cool. So they had databases running for all the credentials, right? So instead of like using the actual servers, they set up their own VMs in AWS and just accessed the databases from their VMs and probably exfiltrated all the data, right? That's why you would do that. Quote, legal overrode the Here we go. Legal overrode the repeated requests to force rotation of all customer credentials and to revert any device access permission changes within the relevant period. And you know why? I'm not a lawyer, obviously. I mean, you can tell, I hope. But you know how legal, they're well, if we would do that, we would admit guilt, and we should not admit guilt. That is the last thing you would do. Okay, so let's look at the statement Ubiquiti originally put out. So when Krebs first reported the story, Ubiquiti said the following: "We are not currently aware of evidence to access." If you read something like this, it's like, that's like prime legalese. That they're trying to hook-wink you. We are not currently aware. They're not saying we're not aware, saying we're not currently aware of evidence, right? We're not currently aware of evidence. They're not saying we're not aware of, hints or, what do I actually mean? Like signs or what, they're saying evidence, hard evidence. We're not currently aware of evidence of access to any databases that host user data, but we cannot be certain that user data has not been exported. That means we are pretty certain. But I mean, they had no access logging, so they can't prove it. This data may include your name, email address, and the one-way encrypted password to your account. In technical terms, the passwords are hashed and salted. Yes, they are, right? They are hashed and salted, but this is PR, right? Or propaganda, as I like to call it. I don't use the term PR much. It's basically propaganda. So what they're saying, this is like information that has nothing to do with what they're actually talking about, right? They're saying in technical terms, the passwords are hashed and salted. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. That's great. And that would protect you. If the attacker didn't have root access to the same machine that fucking hashed and salted the passwords, right? What the fuck? I love these people. I love these people. And Krebs, of course, is a good journalist, right? He can tell that this is like journalism 101. This is what you learn. Like, if you read a press release, it's much more important what the company doesn't say. Not what they say. What they say is what they want to say, is what they want you to hear. But what they don't say is what they don't want you to know. And that's the most important thing. Oh my God. Okay. This is something new on the podcast. And it's going to be hard. You know how I record this live on Twitch, right? And Twitch has this thing called channel points. If you watch the stream for a while, you get like these points. And you can redeem them, and you can make me do things. And I had really not thought that people would do this on the podcast. I don't know why that didn't occur to me. Apparently, I'm dumb. But I have a channel point redemption. That is, I can't swear for 10 minutes. And if I swear, the timer resets. And Gvzmo, has just redeemed those. So, I'm going to start the timer now. For the next 10 minutes, I cannot swear. Which is really not fun when you're talking about a topic like this. So, I do not like you very much right now, GVZMO. Yes. So, that's what companies do. This is how propaganda works. The data may also include your address and phone number if you have provided that to us. Okay. Right. So they're not saying what they're not saying. I mean, they're not denying that somebody completely owned their servers. They're not denying that they completely, how do I say this without swearing? Were extremely unintelligent in, in configuring anything. How they have absolutely no idea how you do security of servers correctly, apparently. And now I'm getting threatened in Twitch chat with other channel point redemptions. Oh my God. You only know how much Was that swearing? Is that swearing? Is oh my god swearing? Is it swearing? Somebody chime in here. Somebody presumably from America. Would that be swearing? I don't think in German that would be swearing. I'm not going to count this as swearing for now. Replying to me in chat by swearing yourself, trying to make me read it out. Mode 7. Well played. Anyway, let's get back to the topic here. At least this works in audio, so it kind of works in the podcast. So I might leave it on. Maybe it adds an interesting factor to the whole thing. So why did they all, basically what I say, they all but lied to their customers. They did not lie. Because to lie, you have to say, you have to make an untrue statement, and you have to know it. And they didn't even make an untrue statement. They just very mischievously misrepresented what they knew, which I think is borderline. Well, in this case, it is unethical, but that's how propaganda works. But what's really so the whistleblower says they did this to protect their stock price. Quoting from Brian Krebs again. Ubiquiti's stock price has grown remarkably since the company's breach disclosure on January the 16th. After a brief dip following the news, Ubiquiti's shares have surged from $243 on January 13th to $370 as of today. This is like written end of March, I think. By market close Tuesday, UI had slipped to $349. So basically, their whole strategy of covering this up worked. And this works. This is why companies do this, because they get rewarded by the stock market. They get generally rewarded by the public for, lying or borderline lying. Basically, causing. I mean, people have to get this right? I'm not upset because they were for some aloof reasons, they didn't tell the truth to their customers. I mean, that's what we assume. That's what I assume with everybody. That's what people do. That's what companies do. No, that's not the problem. The problem is they're actively causing harm. We're talking about people's networks being in danger here. They're endangering the security of people's networks because they're not telling them, or they're not taking the steps. First of all, they themselves are not taking the steps to fix this, as good as they could, as we've just seen. And also, because they're misrepresenting the danger, people are like, okay, then when, if you read that press release, you go like, oh, that's okay, then I'll reset my password whenever. When in actuality, if you actually knew what the whistleblower knew and was what Krebs was reporting later, if you knew that, then you'd actually, you'd probably be like, oh no, I really need to fix my, I really need to reset my credentials here. So I'm not offended at them for a very abstract reason. It's actually a security problem. Right. I'm gonna quickly add a marker here, and I've paused the timer for the non-swearing because mode 7 wants me to do 30 dumbbell reps, and I kind of have to interrupt the podcast for that because that's really not good audio. So just give me a second. This is really annoying during podcast. I'm lucky though today because today was leg day, so my arms are relatively untrained today, so I can actually do this. Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. You want to be balanced, so you should do 15 on one side and 15 on the other. No. The 30 dumbbell reps means 30 on each side. Of course it does. I mean, come on. 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And really, to be balanced, if we want to be balanced, I need to do 30 of these now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Hey Jim, welcome to the Private Citizen, your weekly fitness podcast, defending your right to lift some weights. Yeah, exactly. Hey, that's it's not a bad workout. Okay, right. Let's get back to the show. I have no idea what I was talking about. So, wait, what are you doing? So let's pause this here. Go back to where the fuck we were. Right. Sorry, you're not hearing that. I know. But basically, I'm just trying to see where I was. And now I have to see what I was actually saying. Okay. So I kind of know now. Right. Let's start recording again. And then I will resume the timer. Another 5 minutes, no swearing. Yeah, so basically that's why I'm so upset with them. Because, they actually caused a security problem here. And it worked. Of course it worked. But it only, and this is why whistleblowers are so important, it only worked until the whistleblower came along and Krabs reported on that story. Or as he says in an update, April 1st, Ubiquiti's stock opened down almost 15% Wednesday. As of Thursday morning, it was trading at $298. So if anybody ever wonders, why basically anti-whistleblower legislation and stuff like that's really bad, it's because we need these people. We need people to keep companies honest. Otherwise, you're going to reward behavior like this, right? You're going to reward covering up your really bad mistakes. And although they were later, after Krabs reporting, forced to, talk about more details of the hack, they're still going full bernays with this. Or as Ubiquiti responded, nothing has changed with respect to our analysis of customer data and the security of our products since our notification January 11. Exactly. You still made a really big mistake, and you made an even worse mistake afterwards, and now you're making an even bigger mistake. In response to this incident, we leveraged external incident response experts to conduct a thorough investigation to ensure the attacker is locked out of our systems. We leveraged external incident response experts. You just want to shoot people who write sentences like that. You just want to put them against the wall and shoot them. God, horrible. These experts identified no evidence that customer information was accessed or even targeted. The attacker, who unsuccessfully attempted to extort the company by threatening to release a stolen source code and specific IT credentials, never claimed to have accessed any customer information. This, along with other evidence, is why we believe that customer data was not the target of or otherwise accessed in connection with the incident. So you're basically admitting that attackers, basically stole authentication credentials and even your source code, but you believe that the user data is fine? I mean, LOL. I mean, what the? WTF? What's like? You expect us to believe that? How dumb do you think we are? I mean, they had access to everything, and they, as we know from the whistleblower, probably had access. They had access to these databases, and they created virtual machines just to access this database. Of course, they copied that information. So what we're seeing here, I mean, first of all, Brian Krebs, obviously, because he has a good journalist and good journalistic instincts. It's basically saying the same thing, quoting from a story. Ubiquiti's statement largely confirmed the reporting here by not disputing any of the facts raised in the piece. That's how journalism works. And while it may seem that Ubiquiti is quibbling over whether data was in fact stolen, the whistleblower said Ubiquiti can say there is no evidence that customer information was accessed because Ubiquiti failed to keep logs of who was accessing its databases. Yeah. So there's something we can learn from this, guys. Just don't keep any logs. If you don't have any logs, you can always claim you don't know what's going on. I mean, you gotta hand it to them, right? This is some really like Stalin level information manipulation here. This is how you do it, people. This is like some next level stuff. This is masterly executed. I mean, they're basically selling their, I don't know, I don't even know any. Like, I would have said, okay, they were just incompetent. That's why they don't have any logs, right? And there's this thing, you should never assume incompetence, maliciousness. Oh, you hear that? I can swear again. Yeah, Stop. Why are you not? There's some really Stalin shit, that is. Right? You just don't have any logs, and you can just do whatever the fuck you want. It's hilarious. This is really good. So I don't know now if they're actually like really that fucking dumb, or if this was actually like they didn't keep logs for a reason. Like you would if you run like a private like messaging service or something, where like Signal, where they're like, we don't keep any logs here. If we're not legally required to, we won't, because then they can't come and get our logs because we don't have any log. This is hilarious. These PR people, propaganda relations people in the company, they must have been horrified when that thing happened, and then when like the engineers told them, when they were like, so who hacked this? And they're like, we can't really say, we don't have any logs. Like, the PR people were like, oh my God, this is great. This means we can't prove it. This means we can just say all this crap. Oh God. What a clusterfuck. Anyway, I wanted to share the story. Because, I mean, it's kind of news. And, if you use Ubiquiti devices, It's kind of important for you to know because you probably want to get some new devices. But I think this is like a prime example of like a lot of mistakes companies make these days, and it's like, mostly down from management who don't know what they're doing. Like, put one mistake, like put everything in the cloud. Like, does it make sense? Is it actually better for our customers? No, still put it in the cloud. Collect all the data you can. Right? Whereas normal people, when they would do something, they would go like, okay, let's let people have their privacy. Why do we want to collect this? No, business people like, there's money in that. Surveillance capitalism. There's money in that. We can do that. Actually, I should probably put surveillance capitalism into the tags for this episode. If you didn't know, every episode on privatecitizen.press, capitalism, has tags, and you can click on those and you can see all the other episodes associated with that topic. Right, so that's another mistake. And the security mistakes, I can almost forgive those because that will happen. I mean, it's really, really unfortunate if you're that dumb that you just like fuck up twice, that you get like completely owned like they did. But I can kind of forgive all of that. And any of that wouldn't have been so devastating if they didn't have that first really dumb idea, right? Let's put local network device authentication into the cloud. I mean, I'm going to switch to feedback in a bit because we have a lot of feedback, and there's like one piece of feedback in there about like Word, and I was talking about Office and stuff. And email, it's not like, I mean, okay, putting email in the cloud, I can actually kind of understand. But like your word processor, nobody wants that in their fucking browser. Nobody wants that in the cloud. The only reason nobody wants Photoshop in the cloud. Nobody. Like when they put that into the cloud, they had to do like years of work to re-implementing all the features that were already there that you had that you could have just used. The only reason they put that in the cloud is because it makes money for the company, but it doesn't help your customers. You don't want that in the cloud. You don't want your router login in the cloud. Like who would want that? How can you be so far removed from your customers as a company that you don't get that? That's like the when Helter Stein talks about Lego executives. And they have obviously never played with Lego because they make all these decisions that are just insane to somebody who actually uses the place with the fucking toys. Mode 7 says, sadly, I know users that love Office and Photoshop in the cloudy cloud. Why? Like, why would they love that? I don't think they actually do. I think that what that is propaganda. They believe the advertisement. They believe the company telling them all these features that are in the cloud. But that's just propaganda. That's just repeating lies over and over again until people believe that. They think it's easier. Exactly. They think it is easier because they've been misled by propaganda by repeating that it's easier again instead of thinking themselves. And yeah, of course, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not like that because this whole show is about, trying to think for yourself. But like, that's like when game companies, there was this like whole trend, and now every game has it. But it's like you had to like log in online to play the game, right? And if you're playing an MMO, that makes total sense. But if you're playing a single player game, that makes no sense. But that's just accepted now. That's just accepted. It's still idiotic. It's still like even today, it's completely idiotic. But people just accept it because they've been told again and again and again that it is needed for all these things, which it clearly isn't, right? It's needed for things that the customer doesn't need. So as a customer, you should go like, yeah, fuck them. I don't care. I don't care what you do. I pay you like fucking $60 to play my game, right? I don't care if this makes if this makes discovering errors in the game easier for you. That's your fucking job. That's not mine. It doesn't make it easier for me, right? It's horrible. I mean, just in a modern day, Like, if your internet goes down, you're fucked. You're fucked. I hope you have some books or a Kindle that at least works offline, whatever ebook reader, because you're fucked. I had that happen, like, when we moved in and I didn't have the internet for 2 days. What do you fucking do? You can't listen to music. You can't watch any, like, my TV isn't even connected. Like, you can't watch any, like, of your streaming services. You can't play fucking video games because they all need to fucking log in or authenticate the fucking database or do what the fuck ever. Sorry. Enough rants. But it's like, I just don't get that at all. Revert to the porn DVDs. I don't even, like, yes, I have one DVD. I have like an old PlayStation that I use. Like, we're watching, and even, I mean, that's not idea at all. That's a whole different rant, because we're watching Game of Thrones right now. I've never seen it, like the series completely. And my God, it's that annoying. Like, you have to fucking change the disc every like 2 episodes. And this Game of Thrones thing has like the most idiotic feature ever. It's like it lists like episodes on the. So let's you're watching like season 3, right? Let's say you're watching episode 1, 2, and 3, and then episode 4 is also in the menu, and then you click on episode 4, and it just like thinking for a second, and it goes, "Oh, please insert the next disc," and you're like, and then you have to insert disc, and then you get the whole, the FBI really disapproves, and it's like really illegal in America to copy this. Like, what the fuck do I care? Anyway, before this whole podcast descends into just 2 hours of rants, let's talk about the feedback, because I had a lot of feedback from the producers that listen to this show. And first of all, of course, this is as anything, largely opinion based, and I value people's feedback. I value direct feedback. If you're watching this while I record it on Twitch, otherwise, please go to privatecitizen.press, click on contact. There's many ways to contact me, including anonymous whistleblower contact form. Anyway, one of the people who've written before, one of the longtime producers of the show, Yevgeny Kuznetsov.
Чики-брики, пальчик выкинь.
Goddamn Ruskies!
Writes again, and he says, enjoyed the scientific method episode. Great job, Fab. You should have mentioned Popper, I think, so as to specifically point out the crucial difference between science and religion, but other than that, a remarkable job of explaining things in layman's terms. I completely agree, Yevgeny. I should have mentioned Popper, and that didn't occur to me at all, but obviously we talk about that in university. Maybe if we ever talk about this topic again, I'm gonna talk about Popper. Twitch chat's the king in the north. It is bullshit, Fab. It is known. Actually, I really like that. Like the part where like Khaleesi's, like whatever handmaidens, whatever they are, they always have the Dothraki thing of it is known. That is like the modern equivalent of 98% of scientists agree. You just go like climate change is man-made. It is known. That is basically what modern like journalism is. They just go like. They just state something. They just say, it is known. So good. Anyway, yes, Yevgeny, you're totally right on Popper. He goes on. I have to explain the scientific method to acolytes, being that I teach at a university, so I think he's using acolytes, which is a religious term, tongue-in-cheek here. So I can appreciate the work you've put into prepping this. I usually concentrate less on peer review since my audience usually has a good enough idea about that. Well, they're at university, and that makes total sense. And more on how the ultimate merit of a theory is its power of prediction, not its ability to explain the already known facts. But that's my audience. For a general audience, yours was a great explanation, truly. Thanks, Yevgeny. He raises a good point here. Actually, I was concentrating on like these historic and accurate scientific things, its ability to explain already known facts. That is, of course, not what a theory or like a hypothesis is used in science, like in cutting edge, like in how it actually works in science. I should have probably said that in the episode. I was using that as examples to explain to, basically random people that listen to the podcast how it works. Obviously, when you're an actual scientist and you do science, like the people Evgeny teaches, then of course, the ultimate merit, he puts that really well, the ultimate merit of a theory is its power of prediction. So basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to predict, the guys who, Watson and Crick, or whoever really came up with that model, who were talking about the DNA, they were trying to predict without, they didn't have the ability to have a method, an instrument that could like magnify the actual DNA molecule so that they could actually look at it. So they were trying to predict with other means, with less information, how the DNA looks like to enable more science based on that. And as Evgeny points out here, if you have a really good hypothesis and it works, then you can actually predict that kind of thing and you can build on that. And that is actually what it is actually used for in actual science. So it's less about, that's actually a good point that I should have raised also in the episode about like the problem with facts. The scientific method and scientific process is actually less about establishing how reality is. It's more about trying to predict that, to have models that you can then build on. Right? The scientist who actually does background research is less concerned with basically predicting how reality is 100%, which will come up in further feedback as well, and more about having, that's what I meant with having like a good working theory, right? That one that you can work with, that is, for all intents and purposes, models reality so well that the difference that there might be is really not important for what you're doing. That's basically how science works. Fadi Mansour, also a longtime producer on the show, also writes in, and he has a rather long piece of feedback, which I still, I edited a bit. I edit all feedback a little bit for brevity and just to make it easier on the podcast listener. But his is really long, but I'm quoting it almost completely because what he says is very intelligent, and he talks about many different things. So let's start with what Fadi says here. I understand your frustration about how science, in air quotes, is being presented, which is essentially probably the exact opposite of what it should mean. I was talking about the it is known kind of thing. And somehow you see that there's global acceleration of this phenomenon, or at least that's what I'm seeing in my own bubble. Yeah, I'm seeing that. That's basically why the last episode came about. Aside from the scientific methods, when I talked about the problem with facts, because I see that more and more, and especially in my bubble, especially with journalists. Apologies for not writing lately. You do not have to apologize for this, man. But I have to see. Sorry. Apologies for not writing lately, but I have to see. I'm more enthusiastic. I think probably should have edited that. I think what he says. What he means here is you have to see I'm more enthusiastic about the last couple of episodes than the ones before. Don't get me wrong, the topics and your take on them were interesting, but personally I tend to not be so much interested in the news themselves, but rather in discussing what they mean and going back to discussing principles. So these last two episodes really hit the spot. Yeah, and I think that's what I'm trying to do with the show. It's less about actually talking about the news. I will talk about the news, but sometimes like 3 months later. It's not so much about that. It's because I want to get away from this. What I see is a problem in journalism right now, and I've talked to about Mike when we talked about journalism. We talked about this as well. This panic mode where journalism is, these days is a lot about because of clicks and shit like that. It's not about just the news, right? It's just about the thing that happens now and the thing that we should be scared about. But I'm actually more interested in what that means. And that is something that often is left behind because that takes longer. That's not what most journalists these days are interested in, because that doesn't bring you the clicks. But I think that's actually what people need to know, right? There's a virus out there, it kills people, but beyond like the numbers, what I think people need to know is, what does that actually mean, right? How does that risk stack up? Do I really have to be afraid? How afraid do I have to be, right? How does this risk stack up to other risks? A recent example is like, oh my God, there's a mutation. And we know all of this about the mutation. You're like, that's nice, but that's really not what the normal person needs to know. The normal person needs to know, is this really dangerous right now? And the answer so far has been no. But that's like not good news, as in good news, as in for the website, that, you know, the news website, it doesn't give you that many clicks, and it also takes a while, and it takes thought, and it takes asking actually people who know about this kind of thing, and then asking more than one, and forming an opinion for yourself as a journalist. And people don't want to do that, but I want to do that. And because I often don't get to do that either when I just work as a freelancer, the stuff where I can decide what I want to do, like this podcast, that's where I put my focus on. And I think it's cool that people listening to the show seem to appreciate that too. Fadi continues. First of all, let me comment on the purpose that you put forth for these kind of episodes as groundwork for later topics. I think this is really important, as in my own experience, I feel that discussion tends to fail when people engaged are coming from totally different, quote, backgrounds and assumptions. By background, I don't specifically mean country or religion, but what they essentially hold as true, in quotes, so like their basic assumptions. One important point I feel needs to be highlighted is the word fact, or the data says. It is not. Actually, by the way, I agree with you. That's exactly why I do these episodes, right? Because I can't talk to people about socialism when like their understanding of socialism is like from speeches of, Ocasio-Cortez, right? Like, her understanding of what socialism is does not compute with what I learned at university what socialism is, or what I read about when I read like historic books. And, that's not the definition of socialism that I operate under. So if you come to this podcast and we're talking about socialism, I need an episode that I can refer you to so that you know what I'm talking about. You can then still disagree. That's not the point. I don't want to convert you over to my thinking necessarily, but to have a discussion, we both need to be on the same level. Anyway, Fadi continues. One important point I feel needs to be highlighted is the word, quote, fact, or, quote, the data says. In my opinion, this is not accurate or helpful. Data does not say anything by itself, and, quote, facts don't actually exist outside of abstract sciences like mathematics. On the other hand, what we actually have is observation and interpretation. We observe something in the world, we record it to the best of our abilities, and then we interpret what that tells us about reality. What Fadi talks about there was something I was actually thinking a lot about. Like, I was like, one of the ideas of that last episode would have been a little bit different, a little bit drier, and I would have talked a lot about Plato, the thing in the cave and all of that. But I thought after the scientific method that was maybe a bit dry. But you can still see it from my when you look at the teaser image you can't really see those on the website, but every episode has like this teaser image that gets shown when you link it on social media sites and stuff like that. And the one for last episode was Plato, because this is very basic philosophy of what is actually reality, what is fact. And I think Fadi, even though I wasn't talking about that, Fadi got it perfectly, which is kind of cool. Reality of the, quote, outside world is something that is inherently unknown to us, and we need to spend the effort to observe and interpret in order to come to an understanding of the, quote, reality we live in. So if the goal of science is to understand or define reality, then for me it's a very long way, and I'm not sure how long it would take humanity to get to reality, if we ever will. And if you think this is completely far-fetched and like really dumb, then please read A Short History of Time by Stephen Hawking. Because if you get into like, the stuff like Hawking and Einstein are kind of talking about, if you get to general relativity, you will realize what that means, right? When you suddenly, when you have two people, right, and one's on Earth and the other one's on a spaceship that goes really close to the speed of light, and if those people, like, if one guy travels and the other guy just stays on Earth, and then like a year later, for the person on Earth, a year will have passed, and for the guy in the spaceship, I think actually less time. I think that's around. Oh God, I forgot how it works. But like basically, for one guy, less time passes, right? That's how like relativity works. It's based on your understanding of time is based on the observer. It's not, time is not like you get taught in school, like time is this constant, right? A second is a second everywhere. No, it's not. It depends on how fast you're going. And once you start understanding that, you're like, holy shit, like it's not like the things you take for granted that are just like facts, immovable facts, are actually not. Like reality is a lot more complex than we think. Now, of course, in our daily lives, stuff like that doesn't apply. But if you talk about like the particles that are only there if you observe and stuff like that, this is all the same thing. So that's why I'm not very interested in physics, but like this kind of, that level of physics really interests me because it's almost philosophy. And people like Carl Sagan or, I think Hawkins often said this as well, that this kind of level is, that they actually almost consider themselves philosophers because that's kind of like the same thing. They also work in a lot of the same ways because they can't like rely on, looking at stuff on an electron microscope. They actually are more closer to the philosophy and like the scientists in like in classical times. They're closer to Plato and those guys, and sitting there and just trying to work it out how everything works in their head. Of course, they also rely on data, but yeah. Anyway, back to Fadi. In the meantime, from my personal perspective, I would rather avoid overusing the word fact and just keep in mind observations and interpretations. And I think that's very important. And this kind of transcends science. Well, this is kind of exactly what Mike and me were talking about in politics as well. It's the same thing in politics. This is why politics is so divided right now, because we are talking about facts and the media is talking about facts, but in reality, it's observations and how you interpret that. And there's, somebody who's like conservative leaning will look at an event like the storming of the US Capitol, and then somebody who's more progressive leaning will look at the same event. And first of all, they observe different things, because they come from a different perspective. They look at the same TV footage. And we had this with Mike and me, right? We were talking about this like same TV footage that we talked about, and we both were seeing different things. So that's the first level. And then you interpreting it differently as well, because of your experiences and your biases and all of that. And that is why we can't have nice things. And I think what Fadi is getting to here is really salient, because if all of us understood that, and that was the basis for our discussion, then we would have much better discussions. The problems with discussions is not the internet or Twitter is too many, all those tech. Twitter just has too few characters. You cannot have an intelligent discussion. That's not the problem. That's not why discourse is going to shit. Discourse is going to shit because people are saying, look at the facts. But they're not facts. They're observations and interpretations. Fadi has this completely right. And that's the problem. Anyway, Fadi goes on. This is actually a really good example. I never heard of this before, but as a historian, this is hilarious and this is great. He has a link. I put the link in the show notes as well, privatecitizen.press. I'm going to read more about this probably tomorrow when I have time. To illustrate and share an interesting story about what data says, or some people say data say, which I hate that. But okay, what data says in World War II, there was a need to fortify airplanes. And when seeing the airplanes coming back into the hangars riddled with bullets, the initial conclusion was to place more armor on the areas that were hit the most. For example, so this is what the data might have told somebody. Kind of makes sense, right? On first glance, you're like, okay, that's where the bullet holes is. This is where we're going to put more armor. Ha! But a mathematician called... Oh, God, I'm going to have to fix this. That's... sorry. Give me a second. Live editing here. Okay, this is other feedback. But a mathematician... That's fixed. That never happened. But a mathematician called Abraham Wald had a different idea. He claimed it was more important to place armor on the areas of the plane without combat damage or bullet holes than to place armor on the damaged areas. Any combat damage on returning planes, Wald contended, represented areas of the plane that could withstand damage, since the plane had returned to base. Wald reasoned that if those planes that were actually hit in the undamaged areas, he observed, would not have been able to return. Hence, those undamaged areas constituted key areas to protect. A plane damaged in said areas would not have survived and thus would not have been observed in the sample. Therefore, it would be logical to place armor around the cockpit and engines, areas observed as sustaining less damage than a bullet-riddled fuselage. And this I never heard of this example, but I'm going to keep this in mind because this is great. This is a great example for a lot of the stuff that goes on in science, right? If you have a certain bias, you can be like completely, you can run experiments and your bias can get completely like supported by those experiments because you're just not asking the right question, right? These guys could have put more armor on those parts of the plane, and for like a completely unrelated reason, more planes could have gone back, and they would like, okay, yeah, so our observation was correct, and this proves it. But instead, if you sit there and if you actually think about it, and if you're smart, like this Walt guy who's a lot smarter than me probably, then you just have a better hypothesis. And sometimes you just need a better hypothesis. This is an excellent example. Fadi continues, speaking about science and data and, quote, trusting the science, I have to point out something. While it is important to have the details of scientific findings available so that someone can check, it would be difficult for anybody to be able to grasp all of the details of scientific findings and will in the end have to rely on trusting someone without having to verify everyone by oneself. And this is very true. And this is a problem with journalists, right? This is what journalists do. Right? As a journalist, your job is, as a non-expert in a topic, to learn as much as you can very quickly and then explain that to somebody who doesn't have the time to do that. And so journalists will do this often because they trust certain people. They will get to know people, and those people will have been right in the past, and they will trust them, right? And I do that every time. Like this episode, I quoted a lot of Brian Krebs because I trust Brian Krebs. I don't think like he's some. It's not like I'm going like, oh, he's always right or whatever, or he's not corruptible or whatever. But in general, like I've read a lot of his stories. He seems like a very good writer with very good journalistic instincts, and I haven't caught him doing like some really stupid stuff. So I'm like kind of trusting him. I'm not trusting him completely, but this is what journalists do. But also this is why, when we had this discussion in Twitch chat and somebody said, well, you shouldn't talk about this. Like, virologists have talked about this. Go listen to Drosten's podcast. Dr. Drosten, he talks about this. That's exactly the problem. This is the problem that lots of journalists do. Like, you can't understand, like, if you're a journalist and you write for a national newspaper, you have no fucking idea about virology. Unless you by some fluke you're married to a biologist, or you really like biology and took it a bit in high school and university. But generally you will have no idea. So what you do is you ask an expert. But the thing is, that's very important. Where there's such an complicated topic and it's like new and it's like in this case, we're speaking about the pandemic, SARS-CoV-2, it's very divisive. That's exactly why you need to listen to a lot of people. You can't just go, that Drosten guy over there, he says things that are really cool. Let's, we think he's right. Let's everybody just ask him. No, you have to listen to the other guys to disagree with him. And that was like one of the big problems I've seen in the reporting of this from the beginning. That there was certain virologists and epidemiologists that were things that didn't agree with other guys, and like they were just like completely muted out. People, like the journalists didn't ask them anymore. They got them on TV. They, like Streeck, he said a few things that didn't agree with what Drosten said, and people were like, what's this guy on about? And they never put him on TV again. And that's exactly the trap you cannot fall into. I mean, I understand, yes, this is very hard, and you need to trust somebody, but especially with a divisive topic, it behooves you to actively seek out the other side. That doesn't mean you have to put anybody on. If somebody's obviously a nutcase, right, and you evaluate what he says and it's bullshit a lot of the time, then you don't put him on. But you can't just there's always two sides to any story. And that's what journalists don't understand these days. They think, it's science. It's science, it is known, it is a fact, so the story's over, there's no other side. That's not true. Especially in science, there's always another side. That's how science works. It's a battle. That's how science works. And I'm Fab, and I will tell you that is how science works. Sorry. Right? It's a battle of ideas. By definition, it's a battle of ideas. Anyway, back to what Fadi says, nearly through now. I will now switch to a point that came in feedback from super user about executive decision making. I understand that in some cases decisions need to be made without complete knowledge. And this should be normal, as we will never have complete knowledge. Good point. But either by laziness or malice, it is more convenient to paint decisions as being made based on irrefutable facts than admitting the inherent cost-benefit calculation being made at every decision-making point. So, a more understandable way of making a decision is laying bare this calculation and letting people critique the inherent assumptions of values assumptions of value in this cost-benefit calculation. But if the goal is to achieve a preset conclusion, then a fact, in air quotes, is more convenient. And this paragraph exactly, that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast, right? What I'm doing is I do some research and I build what I think is a correct picture of what is going on. And then I present that to you. But unless other journalists who are like, this is a fact, and I'm just telling you that's a fact, right? Like, let's say the New York Times Daily would do that. They would research a topic and then present it to you as if it was fact. I'm not doing that, because I know that my biases are involved, and I know that, I might be wrong. And that is why I'm also very, very specific, and I mention this every episode. This is not to fucking bore you out of your mind. I think it's very important, and there could be new listeners on the show who haven't heard this before. I try to give you all, to be as transparent as I can, to give you, as Fadi puts it, to lay bare all the basis for this calculation I'm doing, so that you can go and look it up, and you're like, maybe he's wrong on that. And then I want you to write me. That's the next step. I want you to tell me, because I'm not too proud to admit that I was wrong. I've been wrong a lot of times, right? You're a journalist. You write thousands of news stories, just by poor, if you're the best journalist in the world, you write thousands of news stories, you will be wrong. Everybody's wrong. That's I don't think that's bad. It's kind of like, it's kind of like the thing with Ubiquiti. It's not the getting hacked is the really bad part. It's how we deal with it. And I'm trying to deal with this in a transparent way. Anyway, I really like how Fadi boiled that down in that paragraph. And finally, a small point about pronunciation is also something I always say, people, if I pronounce something wrong, and you're from the culture, please tell me. Final point about pronunciation. In the episode, you tried to pronounce Ibn al-Haytham, and actually your first attempt was the best, as it should be pronounced with a soft TH. He also sent me IPA, which is the preferred way. So it's al-Haytham, or as close as I can get. My Arabic is even worse than my Russian.
Goddamn Ruskies!
So a bit of delay on pushing that button for some reason. But so these last 2 episodes seem to have really interested a lot of people. I've got a lot of feedback. So here's another quite a long feedback note, which I think was still this is worth it, from Christoph Martin, who hasn't written to me before, but this is some really also some really intelligent. Some of it is over my head, but hey, that's okay. So let's go into this. I really enjoy your shows. Started listening with LO and thought the topic of the last episodes are a good chance to give you some feedback. When I read the titles of the last episodes, The Scientific Method, The Problem with Facts, I was kind of skeptical, but listening to it got me thinking again about how people outside of academia perceive science. And Christoph is obviously in academia. You can easily tell by the rest of his message. There are a few points I could rage about in this context. For example, how we cripple science with temporary contracts, something I've raged about in the past, because my wife's very much is, or was for a long time very much affected by this. The peer review process and academic publishing, especially the Cosa Elsevier, talked about this also in other podcasts a lot. It's actually, but I don't want to waste your time with that, and most listeners won't have a benefit from that. Hence, here are my thoughts on what I think many people not working in academia get wrong. This is by no means intended to sound arrogant, and I don't think it is. But I don't think you're wasting my time, and I actually think this is something we need to talk about in the future. I think, I've talked about this in other episodes on the side, but I think this will, I don't know if it will bore people, but I think it's important. I think it's important for people who do not work in academia. Because the way we fucked up, especially like in Germany, employment of scientists and worldwide academic publishing, things like, I've talked about Sci-Hub and why that's important in the past. That affects all of society, right? Because that kind of affects our ability to do science properly. And since every fucking news story is now based on science, allegedly, it's really important. But anyway, we're going to talk about that at some other point. Anyway, Christoph continues. Christoph, I don't even know. We don't need to know. Science is hard, and conducting reliable and reproducible experiments in the social sciences is especially hard. I come from a technical field and often take it for granted that I have plenty of data to work with. But in the social sciences, collecting data is often very labor-intensive and error-prone. Think about a simple survey. First, you have to design the questions in a way such that they won't bias the questions in a specific way, and then you have to actually find people who are willing to spend, from their perspective, waste their time on your survey. Hence, data used in studies is often severely restricted in size and limited to a certain population. Many studies survey students, since they are easily accessible, have some time, and be lured with small monetary rewards or ECTS credits. I don't even know what ECTS credit is. That the European? I think it's basically you get like credits, as if you'd done a course or something. I know this because even like working at companies, sometimes I got like requests by students. Sometimes they're interns at the company and they're like, I'm writing my thesis right now or something, and I need like data, and I have made a survey. Please, would you fill out the survey? And I always make a point of doing that. It's basically the only surveys I fill out when it comes to helping scientists. Another important aspect which makes social sciences difficult. It is hard to perform good experiments, especially on the macro scale. There's only one society and the global market. With other words, as far as I can understand, it's like hard to have a negative control, right? There's no other market. This and other effects lead to a so-called replication crisis. I actually don't know what that is, but he linked the Wikipedia article, so I'm going to read into that. What is especially concerning, I just couldn't, you see the amount of feedback, I just couldn't, get deeper into this in the preparation of the podcast. What is especially concerning in the context of the problem with facts, questions that are relevant to politicians, like, for example, the effect of universal basic income or the impact of raising the interest rates, are hard to answer for scientists in an experimental way. Exactly. You'd have to kind of, have a country and then you have universal basic income, but then it's probably not comparable to your country. It's like really hard. Another problem is that often the methods we use cannot answer the actual questions we are interested in, especially the infamous hypothesis testing. Now it comes to a point where I don't really understand what's going on, but I'm going to read it out anyway, because some of the listeners of this podcast will be more intelligent than me and will understand what's going on. This applies to Bayesian. I don't even know. I know what that word is. I don't know what it means, but I can't pronounce it. I've never pronounced it in English. I think non-Bayesian hypothesis tests or classical hypothesis tests. Of course, statisticians are aware of these and other, for example, p-value hacking limitations, but there is a huge amount of inertia in academia. And that's true. Sorry, I'm moving my microphone a little bit. I need to change my posture. Roughly speaking, hypothesis tests, for example, a t-test, are used to test whether there is some effect. Usually when you read something is statistically significant, some hypothesis test was involved. These methods are powerful but come with an inherent flaw. They measure the probability of the observed data given a null hypothesis. And he puts a formula in here that I don't even know how to read out. Now we reach the limitations of my scientific knowledge, which has a lot to do with math. But often this gets confused with the probability of the hypothesis given the observed data. We have another formula. Please go to privatecitizen.press to read this in full. Hence, scientists cannot, quote, accept a hypothesis with this method. We merely do reject the null hypothesis. Non-academic outlets, newspapers, etc. often report this as, quote, scientists have shown that X, Y, Z is true, which is not correct. Also, the notion, quote, statistical relevance requires a threshold at which the observed data is so unlikely that we reject the null. This is called the significance level. The actual value of this level depends on the field of research. For example, in psychology, 0.05 is often chosen. Roughly speaking, this is the probability that the null hypothesis is rejected even if it is true. From a frequentist perspective, this means if you read 100 studies and the experimental setup and everything else is perfectly fine, 5% of them will come to wrong conclusions solely based on the way the test works. So basically, when you say they're statistically relevant, you read that in news stories a lot. That doesn't mean it's true. It just means the likelihood of it being wrong is relatively small, but it could be wrong. I think what Christoph is saying here is that basically even if you write a paper and you design your study correctly and everything's correct, your data's correct, your study design's correct, everything, then you still have a certain chance of you being wrong with the whole paper, because basically you just can't. Just the way you designed your experiment doesn't see what you're actually looking for. Another example why this is a problem: if your null hypothesis is, quote, there is no effect of a drug intervention, etc., as is often the case, you only need to collect enough data, and at some point your results become, quote, statistically significant, either due to a very low, but for practical purposes irrelevant effect, or due to randomness. So, okay, to make this more clear, basically, if I say, okay, this drug will not kill somebody, and then I have data, and I have 100 patients, and 5 of them died, then that actually might be right within my statistical statistically significant realm. So I'd have to report that. I'd have to go, well, actually, my hypothesis is not true because these 5 people died. But if I just collect more data and, I basically for statistical reasons, I collect a lot more data, I'll get a lot more people that didn't die and I get some more people that died. But at some point, the spacing of those two will move apart and the people who died will actually go beyond my statistically significant count, and then I can just report, well, no, actually nobody, well, you're not saying nobody died, but basically, no, this drug didn't cause people to die, because the few people we have data on that died, that is just statistically insignificant. That's how I understood this. But I'm the first to admit that this is slightly over my head, which I'm not ashamed to admit. This is why I didn't finish university. Right. So, yeah, that's basically what. Sorry, I have to scroll back up because it's so complicated. My brain's overloaded. This is what Christoph said. I thought this was very interesting. And to wrap up the feedback segment, I have another comment from Butterbeans, who is also a longtime producer of the show. Was written in before, hasn't written for a while, but now returns with some input from Tennessee, and it's not about science. Had a throwaway comment about Word. We're gonna go into some software infighting now. So he's writing about Office, and I will include his comments in the show, even though Butterbeans, the fucker, double spaces his periods, which is annoying. I mean, it doesn't annoy me if I just read an email and somebody double spaces his periods. But if I copy and paste it and want to put it in the show notes, I have to remove all the fucking double periods because it fucking drives me insane. And of course, my text editor is gonna flag that up because I've configured it that way. Because if you hand in a story to some news outlet and you have double spaces, it's just annoying. The character count is everything is off. It's just not good. So we don't do that. I also found, when I was Googling this, there's like I linked Wikipedia. So in case somebody doesn't know what double typing your periods as private citizen on press, there's a link. But I actually found a news story that I considered linking, which was like, double spacing your periods is the easiest way of showing the world that you're over 40. Which I found hilarious. Obviously, I don't do that because, while I did, my parents had a typewriter while I was a kid and I wrote on that. But, in my professional life, I've never written on type. Well, I have, actually. I have one right there. But it's just for nostalgic reasons. Right? I learned to write on a computer, so I don't do that. Butterbean says, long time no talk. Been very busy with work here. Understandable. You're trying not to get fired like all of us in this economic climate. Been very busy with work, I presume. Been very busy with work here and unable to send any feedback for the last several shows. However, you've woken me from my slumber. You've woken me from my slumber. With a throwaway line from your last show about the scientific method, which I enjoyed very much. And the line was, LibreOffice is better than MS Office. Paraphrased. No, it's not. Oh God, see, and I have a mistake in the show notes because I've tried to fix this double-spaced periods, and now there's no period after the fucking full stop. So we need to fix that. No, it's not. LibreOffice sucks compared to MS Office. Has it improved dramatically over the years? Yes. Is it a functional Office software suite? Yes. Does it beat MS Office for usability and functionality? Hell no. Just to set the record straight, I feel like I've given LibreOffice a fighting chance. The laptop I'm typing this email to you on runs Ubuntu 20.04. My server runs FreeBSD. My gaming PC runs Windows 10. I use this laptop the most out of my personal computers, and I've tried to utilize LibreOffice when I need to be productive instead of switching over to my work laptop or gaming PC, which also has Office installed. I'll break it down into a few bullets. Mode 7 says, it fucking is better. It is known. Yes, basically what Butterbeans is saying. Microsoft Office better than LibreOffice? It is known. we have to make this a meme on the podcast now. It's so good. MS Office has many more micro productivity improvements than LibreOffice. I'm going to address these in order. For heavy Office users, I use Excel more than any other Office program. MS Office micro productivity improvements like smarter navigation with arrow keys, autofilling of cells, and data management through tools like pivot tables are vastly superior to LibreOffice. When you use Office software a lot, the little things start to make a big difference. Now, what Butterbeans didn't get here is that obviously I was coming from my own personal perspective, right? Obviously, right? My personal bias. That's what we're talking about here. And I wasn't even comparing Office suites. I was actually, maybe it was my fault. I'd have to go back to maybe I just said Office, but basically, because we were talking about Office, but basically what I was comparing is LibreOffice Writer and Microsoft Word. Because as I said in the fucking episode, I don't use Excel. I hate Excel. I don't hate people who use Excel. Well, some of them. A lot of people use Excel because they're trained by their company to use Excel for things that you shouldn't use. Like, I've seen people that should have just used the fucking like a proper database. The shit I've seen that people use Excel for is just like, my God. I mean, I've literally worked at companies and I've done jobs where I've seen people use Excel where they should have used like Postgres. And these days, I mean, you have so many more options. You can use Mongo or whatever. But like at least SQLite or something. But in that one case, I'm thinking of, they should have actually used Postgres. They used fucking Excel to store like all these, like they had all these. Basically, they should have written a web application as like your input form and then stored that in a proper database instead of like giving people Excel and put that in. Redeemer, hello, that's actually Fadi, Redeemer F in Twitch. I was just reading your feedback. Says I should show you some of my spreadsheets. Yeah, I mean, but like, are you doing that because you want to, or because the company makes you do it? Anyway, so yes, I think, if you use Excel, of course Microsoft Office is better, because I don't know what I don't even know what's Sheets or something. It's probably horrible. I mean, not that Excel isn't horrible, but like, it's horrible. And I know from people that use PowerPoint, again, people that can't understand why would you ever use PowerPoint. I think I said that in the episode as well. They say like the LibreOffice alternative is not as good. I was talking about the word processor. I'm a writer. I was talking about the word processor. And the MS Office Word is not better than LibreOffice Writer. I'm sorry, it is not. It has some features that LibreOffice Writer has, but you should never use them. For example, the thing that comes up in my work, of course, all this is colored by how I use it, right? That goes without saying, actually, but I'm saying it because I think it doesn't go without saying. Sorry, I need to take a sip of Earl Grey here, which is cold now. The last drag is Earl Grey, cold. It's like, for me, it's like this editing, like the editing mode that people use, right? Where they track changes in Office, right? That's the worst invention ever. That is so clumsy. It is so idiotic. And I've worked for fucking editorial newsrooms who use that to do like there's software written for that. There's specific content management systems that do that. Right? And you can, like, I personally do it in Git, but I wouldn't write in Office either. Like, I just do a markdown or a text file and I do it in Git. That's how you do this shit. Like, the fucking Office, like, if you are 2 people and you're using it, it works. As soon as you have 3 or 4 people, and then they're sent around an email with the fucking file, and then everybody goes like, oh, let's do this and that. And like, the amount of time I fucking just waste on fucking clicking and getting it to do what I want to do. Like, I could have probably just typed out the whole fucking 5 pages again. It is so ridiculously shit, that feature. And people insist on, that's the thing again. That's like when we talked about this. I think that's like that's not propaganda, but that's like, I don't know what that is, like societal. People get an idea and then like everybody does something in a certain way. It's not necessarily the best way, but it's just like what people do. And I feel that's the same with Word. Oh God. what's Twitch chat saying? Calc. Oh, it's called Calc. From my experience, Calc's very capable, says Mode 7. I would have no idea. Redeemer F says, you're right that database applications should be used, but I have to say Excel can be good to prototype some helpful tools. And Mode 7 says, Emacs is the best word processor anyway, so you all can fuck off. No, it's not. Emacs is even worse. I'd rather use Office in the fucking cloud. Fuck Emacs. Seriously. But let's not go into that discussion. I'm very much a Vim. Actually, I'm an Atom guy. So fuck you all. I do all my work in Atom. Which will then morph to spreadsheets from hell, says Redeemer about the Fadi, about the prototyping. Yeah, I think the problem is people use Excel to prototype stuff, and then they just keep working, right? Then it's not like when you prototype a car, and you have like the prototype car, and then you actually design the car that is to be built on the production line. You do a second separate car. They just keep building on the prototype. That seems to be a problem. Anyway, Butterbeans goes on. Exchange's calendar is a killer app unto itself. I know Exchange is a poorly coded security risk inside an organization. Love that podcast, by the way. But it's also a productivity machine. Our office has 10 employees, and we're constantly traveling, and scheduling with Exchange is so easy. It works so well. When everything is clicking, there's nothing that comes close. Well, yeah, maybe, but that wasn't what I was talking about, right? I guess. Like, I'm one guy. Like, why would I for me, it's a fucking paper journal with a pen. That's how I do my fucking scheduling of things, and that's the best thing. That even works when my computer doesn't work. And also, one thing I have to say, like, I think Butterbeans uses this just differently, but one example I still have where I still think Office is ridiculously shit is that I'm thinking you're talking about the on-premise, like the classical Office. But that's going to go away, right? That's not what Microsoft wants to use. Microsoft wants you to use Office 365. And that doesn't work if their fucking servers go down, which happens. And I don't know who you're working for, but let's say you have mission critical scheduling to do, and you can't do it for like 4 hours because Microsoft fucking Office 365 is offline. That's just not acceptable. That's like NASA saying, about that rocket launch. Weather at Cape Canaveral is perfect right now, but like we couldn't because Office 365 is down, and like, you know, the countdown, right? We do all that scheduling with Exchange in the cloud. That's the thing I was getting at actually in the podcast. Anyway, last point from Butterbeans. Teams is getting better, and Zoom should be scared. I still think Zoom is a better service overall. What? Have you listened to the Zoom episode? But Teams is now coming bundled with Office, and it's good enough. It's only a matter of time before IT departments start looking at how expensive Zoom is and decide it's not worth paying for. Hell, if Microsoft buys Discord, they'll probably integrate some of its technology into Teams as well. Who knows? Yeah, hopefully they don't buy Discord, because that would be nightmare. Microsoft Teams is a fucking nightmare. Microsoft Teams is horrendous. That UI is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like, a company made me use it once, and it's retarded. Sorry, you shouldn't say that, but it's fucking insane. It's an utter cunt of a piece of software. Sorry, I need to swear a lot now because I wasn't allowed to swear earlier. It is so bad. Like, literally, the thing we were using it for at the company, I was telling them, have you heard of Discord? It's like this fucking gamer messenger, and it does everything you're trying to do with Microsoft Teams better. Microsoft Teams wouldn't even let me log in, right? I have a fucking Microsoft account. Not that I want to have one, but you have to have one if you're on Windows. I mean, I managed to log into Windows without using the Microsoft account, which you jump to a lot of hoops, you can do that. But then, of course, you need it when you want something from the store. And there's like, the Windows 10 store is like shit, and there's nothing on there that you want except like maybe Minecraft. But if you want that, you need and I needed that. So Yeah, it wouldn't let me use that fucking account. I had to create another account because they have a difference between like private accounts and there's like institution accounts. It's like, what the fuck? I would say, what the fuck, Microsoft, are you doing? But I'm old enough that I've used Windows ME and I know exactly what they're doing. They're replicating the shit they were doing back then in the cloud. Fuck Microsoft Teams. To quote, while we're at Game of Thrones, to quote the Hound, fuck the king. Fuck Microsoft Teams. And if they're by Discord, we're all fucked. Well, I'm fucked. Well, I'm going to Matrix. Well, I'm on Matrix, but I'll probably have to go there full time. They're going to destroy that. Like, because, like, if they're just Microsoft, I mean, if Microsoft's the mixed bag. With Google, if they buy something, you know they're shutting it down and you're fucked. But with Microsoft, it could be like GitHub, where they just leave it. And then it's okay. Because they know if they mess with that, like software development on the whole planet will stop. And then Linus will have to stop coding the Linux kernel to create like Git on the web or something. So they didn't mess with that. But like Discord, I have a feeling Butterbeans is right. They're gonna include that in Teams, and that would be the worst thing that ever happened to me. Mode 7 says not even just service but network downtime of any kind that exists between you and where Microsoft is storing your cloud data. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could be DNS error, like we had that shit with like DNS. It could be another IoT, like botnet, like DDoS attack. I mean, it could be your ISP, anything. You can't fucking work. Like, and there's no reason. I don't know. Yeah, there might be for any of the other Office applications. Sorry for me. I'm getting excited. I'm hitting the microphone. For any of the other Office applications that you use, but like, there's no fucking reason for a word processor to be in the cloud. Not a single reason. It doesn't have to be on the cloud. If you're collaborating and you sync this stuff, then you just do it between the clients. And then if your fucking cloud server goes offline, at least you can still write. Just your syncing is like, I mean, didn't like fucking what was that? Like WordStar fucking, like they were doing this syncing word processor shit like in 94. I feel like I don't know what was it? That company, I can't remember. Netcraft? No. Can't remember. But like, the only reason they're putting that in the cloud is because they want to get more money. They just want to bleed people dry. It's like, nobody ever said EA is improving games by putting fucking loot boxes in them, right? Nobody ever said that. Why are people saying putting a word processor in the cloud is a good idea? It's the same level of backward, dumbass stupidity. Butterbeans continues. Regardless, fanboy slap fighting over Office software is probably the dumbest to give feedback, but I got to step up for Office. I've basically built my career in Excel, and I'll defend it fervently. No, I think it's great feedback. I think it's cool. I mean, other people have other ways of using software, and it's content. Gives me a chance to rant, and some people really like that. Some listeners. Keep up the great work. My brother, always enjoy hearing your thoughtful perspective. Please continue doing shows on broad topics like socialism, cyber war, and the scientific method. I actually like that, so you're not the only one saying that in feedback this time. And as I always say, please give me that feedback, if anything. What topics do you want to hear? It's really helpful. If ever you decide to venture down the history route, perhaps you've thought about it and decided against it, I'd love to hear that too. You often talk about Bismarck. Why not do a show or two about him and his politics? Actually, I haven't discounted doing history, to be honest. But this podcast is not a history podcast. I kind of want this podcast to be I don't really want to limit myself to topics, but I want it to be applicable, a general idea. It's not only privacy. We've widened that a bit. It's like, if you are a conscientious citizen these days, right? What do you need to be aware of? What dangers do you need to protect against? What can make your life better? That kind of thing. And I want to do history if it kind of applies. Like the socialism stuff, that episode, that was history. to a large degree. I want to see how that applies, but that's really important in today's discussions. I'd love to do an episode about Bismarck. I'd have to think. I have to think about how Bismarck applies. I mean, the most salient thing that maybe I want to tackle in the past, we always talk about Russian hackers, and it's a very, if there's going to have to be an episode about geopolitics, about the US, Europe, China, and Russia, basically the big players in the world, and how that affects everything, that affects technology, privacy, everything. And the salient point, I think the most important point these days that Bismarck always made that survived really well is Bismarck's the Iron Chancellor, get it? Wait, where's my why am I not on this? His one of his hard and fast rules was, if you're Germany, don't mess with Bismarck. Don't mess with Russia, sorry. Because, Germany, we're really small. Look at the map of the world, we're really small. And then next to us is this huge country with all these people, which is Russia. It doesn't make any sense if you're German, if you're steering German policy, to mess with Russia. Germany really should always be allied with Russia. You can have, and Bismarck was all about realpolitik. That's kind of his thing. And, actually I could do an episode about that. That's really interesting these days as well. But he was all about you can pick and choose your alliance partners based on whatever you want to do. But basically you don't want to piss off Russia, because if you are Germany, if you're working, you can work with, it doesn't matter if you work with Britain or France, or I don't know, Austria. Back in the day, Austria, Hungary, or Italy, it doesn't matter really. These are the same size, right? They're the same power level. They are exchangeable. But Russia is on the same power level as the United States. They're a whole different league of, if they field an army, it's gonna be numbers of it's going to be what's levels of magnitude bigger than your army you have in Germany. And I think that's something that's been forgotten in modern politics in Germany to some extent, and it still very much applies. It hasn't changed, because now, sizes of armies still count, but also nuclear weapons, and that really hasn't changed. So that would be something. Anyway, I appreciate that all of you wrote in. Appreciate all the points. And I thought this was really cool. So that's why I devoted so much time to this. And that was the feedback section. So let me quickly go and wind up the show now. So as I said, you can go to privatecitizen.press. As I think Fadi very well surmised, this is what I'm trying to do here is give you my perspective and make that transparent and give you all the thought patterns and all the sources that went into that. So you can find that at privatecitizen.press. And I'm doing that. I'm not getting paid for it because I like to do it, because I think it's important. But I also obviously have to pay the bills. So in every show notes section, there's a section called "Toss a coin to your podcaster." Toss a coin to your podcaster, you valley of plenty. That song from The Witcher. If you want to help out, you can. I make it quick. I have a Patreon where you can go and you can support me, with a set amount of money every month. Or you could just send one-off donations. Well, they're not technically donations, support, monetary support, via PayPal, producers@fab.industries. If you want to do any other way, just contact me. We're gonna figure that out. It's kind of hard for me to do on a regular basis, but we can figure something out. That's the value for value model, as pioneered by John C. Dvorak and Adam Curry. which basically means, it's podcast free, but like if you get some value from it, consider giving some value back, because basically some people need to do that. Otherwise, stuff like this will go away sooner or later. People can live on love on air alone, and believe me, I've tried. I need to buy myself a döner once in a while, otherwise I'll fucking starve. And with that, we're at the end of the show, where I just thank everybody who did that. So first of all, everybody who monetarily supported the show via Patreon and PayPal and basically put it on the air. For this episode, we have Georges, Butterbeans, Michael Mullen Jensen, Jonathan M. Heavy, Niall Donegan, Dave, Steve Hose, Shelby Kruver, Vlad, Jackie Plage, One Eye 11G, Philipp Klostermann, Jaroslav Lichtblau, Kai Sears, IKN, Michael Small, Fadi Mansour, Dirk Didi, Bennett Piata, Joe Poser, Matt Jellyman, David Potter, Larry Glock, Mika, Martin, Dave Amrish, Tobias, Mr. Amish, Ricky M, Drive Zero, Mode 7, Avis, Jonathan Edwards, Barry Williams, Sandman616, Neil, Captain Eckhead, Rizal, D, and Ivan Curry. And while I was saying that, I also have to mention Jonathan, who just cheered 100 bits on Twitch, so thanks for that. And he says, show him with money. He's already on that list. And he's going to be on the... Is he on the next list? He should be on the next list. Why are you not on the next list, Jonathan? I also have to thank all my Twitch subscribers, because you can also support the podcast by subscribing on Twitch. And you also support me playing games. Like, I actually finished The Witcher 1 this week. I'm going to start on The Witcher 2 on Friday, which I'm really looking forward to. Then, of course, Seth, Jonathan, and I often play Escape from Tarkov, where we escape to the wastes of post-Soviet Russia.
Опачки! Goddamn Ruskies!
Anyway, so my subscribers on Twitch, thanks to them, Mike _ the Dane, Gal Terran, Mode 7 is available, L _ Terrestrius _ Jim. Okay, just look in the show notes. I'm just going to read out the names, but if you want to follow these people on Twitch, names are fully in the show notes. Flash Gordo, Centurio Apertus, Indie Gamiacs, Sandman616, and Redeemer F. I'd also like to thank Bytemark at bytemark.co.uk, a UK cloud hosting company, which, hosts my cloud, which is basically 2 servers. I have that providing you the audio files for this. This is what I term my CDN, a very generous CDN of 2 servers. It worked really well. Bytemark's great. They have great servers. Never had an issue with them for over a decade now. And they're basically making this whole thing, like, if I had to just pay for that, it'll be like you'd either have like really shitty downloads, like really slow, or it would eat all my money I get like from you guys. So thanks to Bytemark. And then also mentioning the podcast music. So obviously there is the show's theme song, which, starts every show and which I've come to become really attached to. It's a song called Acoustic Roots by Raoul Kabazali. And then I'm going to end just now with another song called Simpler Life by Bo the Drifter, who I've played a few times and I really like. So with that, I'm going to end this show, and I'm going to see you, or you're going to hear from me next week, probably on Wednesday. I think that's the plan for another episode of The Private Citizen. Until then, just try to remember the rights you have, and try to defend them a little bit. Try to think for yourself, and don't put don't put things in the cloud needlessly if you can help it. That would be nice. See you next week, or you'll hear from me next week.
Man, I always had stories about the city life and the crazy nights. Figure I should probably give it a try. Maybe check it out, see what it's all about. But the traffic was fast and the money was slow. The people I met you never get to know. I miss this place I used to live back home. 'Cause up here it's breakneck, paycheck, rat race, what's next? I'm tired of feeling like a small fish in a big pond. I think I'll go back where I came from, where everybody knows my name. My friends are still the same. I guess the slow life hit me just right, like a bonfire on a cold night. Hell, and you can keep your 9 to 5. Happy with the simple life. Yeah, I ain't here to try to change your mind, trying to save your time, in case you're thinking about breaking out the bucket list. Girl, you can skip this funny business, 'cause up there it's complicated and overrated. Down here everything is understated. That's alright by me. I got everything that I need, but there is breakneck, paycheck, rat race, what's next? I'm tired of feeling like a small fish in a big pond. I think I'll go back where I came from, where everybody knows my name. All my friends are still the same. I guess the slow life hit me just right, like a bonfire on a cold night. Yeah, and you can keep your 9 to 5, 'cause I'm happy with the simple life. Tired of feeling like a small fish in a big pond. I think I'll go back where I came from, where everybody knew my name, and all my friends are still the same. I guess the slow life hit me just right, like a bonfire on a cold night. Hell, you can keep your 9 to 5, 'cause I'm happy with the simple life. Oh Lord, you can keep your 9 to 5.
Right, here we go. Another episode recorded. Where do I stop this? On the stop button. Yeah, thanks for watching. What I will do now is I will take a break, maybe 5-10 minutes. Have to see. I'm guessing my wife came home. Want to say hello. After that, you can watch me edit the show and put it out. And after that, I'll play some Tarkov with Jonathan. Because we have to
Чики-брики, пальчик выкинь.
have to do some cheeky breaky. Yeah. So I'll put on. Oh God, I probably need to. Yeah, I need the other playlist for that. Come on. Wait, where is it? I'm gonna put on some music. What are we gonna do? Yeah, I'm gonna put on some music and have a quick break, and then yeah, see you afterwards for the editing, and you see how the rest of the sausage is made. A little update, says Jim, 1.2k to go to reach 10k. Maybe someone in chat has a nice idea of what action I could ban with that. Yeah, so Jim is saving up for the channel reward to ban in-game actions. Oh my God. Thanks for watching, Mode 7. See you later. Yeah, I'm gonna have a quick break, and then we're gonna edit that show, which is relatively quick most of the time. Anyway. Oh, no, that's not the music we want. Here we go. How loud is that? Okay. See you in a bit. Don't go anywhere. So, quicker break than expected because the wife ain't home yet. She's still doing science, I swear. This woman works more than me, which can't be healthy. Right, so I'm gonna have another break when she actually comes home. Talk to her quickly. So, what we have to do now is actually, I will now have to switch my audio system. So if everything goes to shit, you know why. So let me just turn this kill voice meter and then switch our audio to the actual card. And then, first of all, I'm going to turn alerts back on. Let me just, right, that's the alerts back on. So now if Jonathan cheers again, I'll get fucking obliterated by the horrible alert sound, which is the point. Right, and now I need to switch like desktop audio to my actual audio card. Like that. And now this should work, right?
Yeah, it's a great time to be a podcaster.
And you should now be able to hear this. So now you can hear what I'm actually editing. Right, let's do this. Let's edit this show. So cloud immediately, if you can help it. That would be nice. See you next week, or you'll hear from me next week. All right, so take that off. Cut out a bit here. And then we'll tighten this up a little bit. Nice. See you next week. Or you'll hear from me next week. Right, and because we have such a magical tool, we can actually auto level this. Bam. And we can auto level that. Yeah, probably a bit too low. You'll hear from me next week. That would be nice. See you next week. Or you'll hear from me next week.
The money was slow, the people are still the same. I guess the slow with the simple life. Oh Lord, you can keep your 9 to 5.
Always keep a little bit of airtime on the dead air on the end, so the next podcast doesn't play immediately. Which I like. Not too long, not to annoy the listener, but it's like a simple thing. Soviet Russia.
Опачки! Goddamn Ruskies!
Anyway, so my... Alright, that seems okay. That's just the chapter marker. Devoted so much time to this. It's all count, but also nuclear weapons, and that really hasn't changed. So that would be something. Anyway, I appreciate that all of you wrote in. Appreciate all the points. Time to this. And that was the feedback section. So let me quickly go and wind up the show now. What's auto level due to this? That actually so much time to this. Quickly go and wind up the show now. Yeah, that's probably That's another chapter marker here. I had a lot of feedback from the producers that listen to this show.
Пальчик выкинь.
Right, okay, this is where we have to do an edit. Like abstract reason, it's actually a security problem. And then I will restart, resume the timer. Another 5 minutes, no swearing. Yeah, so basically, cut this here. Cut some of this shit off. Cut some of that shit off. And we select, all tracks. Right of that, like that. Fade that a bit into each other. Reason it's actually a security problem. Yeah, so basically maybe we don't want to do that. We want a little bit of a break. Security problem. Yeah, so basically that's why I'm so upset with them. Because so basically that's why I'm so upset with them. Because, you know, they actually caused a security problem here. And it worked. Of course it worked. But it is from their VMs and probably exfiltrated all. Legal overrode the repeated requests. You press a button in the game and this happens.
Ублюдок, мать твою! А ну иди сюда, говно собачье! Решил ко мне лезть? Ты засранец вонючий, мать твою, а? Ну иди сюда, попробуй меня трахнуть, я тебя сам трахну! Ублюдок, анонист чертов! Будь ты проклят! Иди, идиот, трахать тебя и всю семью! Говно собачье, жлоб вонючий! Дерьмо, сука, падла, иди сюда, мерзавец! Негодяй, гад, иди сюда, ты говно! Жопа!
That, my friends,
So
is the
good.
greatest taunts.
And
you
put that on the soundboard just in case I need
first
it.
thing he hears is that's like the nuclear bomb of swearing. I have no idea what he says, but it's Russian, so it makes it just so much better. Dude, like the cocking of an AK and then
Чики-брики, пальчик-выки.
a cheeky breaky, party quakey. Alright, here I had some. Even though it's a bit belated. Did I put a marker there? The episode, even though it's a bit belated. I mostly just shoehorned that in there because I wanted to play that. Let's say, you know, the news topic of this episode, even though it's a bit belated. That bumper because I like that bumper very much. But with that, let's get into the belated. Let's say, you know, the news topic of this episode, even though it's a bit belated. Okay, I think that's fine. That's fine. Then I saw it, found it very interesting, but had some other episodes prepped, so, you know, that's how it... Will you not stop? Will you not play any audio? Play any audio? Damn it. That's not good. You know, that's how it goes. Okay. Right. Oh god, why do I have these armed still? I'm an idiot. Okay. You know, that's so cut here. Right in front of the you know. Cut here. You know, that's how we cut here. And we cut this. And then we cut that off. And this. prepped. So, that's how it goes. The ending's a bit abrupt on that. That's probably by me. Oh, shit. Oh. Shit. Do what I want. Yeah, thank you. So, that's how it works. That's like, I like one of the reasons I use this sound editor is because it, like, in Audacity, like the end of this. So Audacity would just, like, if you chop it there, it would like pixel, like bit perfect just go. So, like, and this, like, I think it fades it a little bit. I would always do that, like, in Audacity by hand. So it's like always fade endings like that. You just save massive time. So that it just sounds natural. So this just sounds like a natural pause. So, that's how it goes. Like, you wouldn't, if you just listen to the podcast, you wouldn't know if I've cut it there. Those are the little things. It's kind of like what Butterbean likes about Office, I guess. That's why I paid for a specific program. That's a specific podcast editor. You have to get used to some stuff, but it's like very, very slimline for the kind of stuff I'm trying to do here. And that is, I think, that is the editing. But let's have a listen. You're listening to the private citizen defending your right to have something to hide your... Actually, this is still a bit loud. Wait, how does this work again? I always forget how this works. Right, I want that exactly. That's what we want, and then we just want to... No! What? Fuck. Just after I said this program is really good. And I completely fuck up. Okay, that's one. How does that work? Right? How do I get to out? No. I just want to, like, no. Do I have to mark it? Okay, I think I have to mark it. Like that. Yes. Okay. Then we just go like that. Exactly. That's what we want. That's what we want. Hello, everybody. I'm your host. Misclick. You're listening to the private citizen defending your right to have something to hide, your podcast about anything you need to know to defend your rights as a private citizen. This is episode 65 for Wednesday, the 14th of April, 2021. Insane cloud stupidity. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Fab, coming to you live from Düsseldorf in North Rhine-Westphalia, the capital of the federal state of North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany. That's the big federal state in the west, where all the steel and all the coal used to come from, and now we mainly have unemployment. How are you doing? Welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk a little bit about an IT security topic. Yeah, privacy's involved, and generally, sounds good. Company days, and so that's it. That's it basically for the editing. What we do now is we go to the show notes and we go to chapters And then we name our chapters. Right. And then we go to publish. And this is just, I had some other projects for the other episodes. That's why that is still on 61. Put that here. 65. Okay. Then for some reason, I think we have to go back. I think maybe I'm just superstitious, but right. Now we publish this. No. And then we encode that to MP3. And while it does that, I'm going to get that teaser image we talked about earlier. And like to use Unsplash. I really like those. They're like, permissively licensed teaser images. Some really good stuff on there. I hear Jonathan has some stuff on there as well. We should look that up. But first, let us find some clouds. And that's too nice. We need something like menacing. We need like a stratocumulus. Like big old thunderhead. Like that's good. I like that. So we download that. It's from Noah as well. Can you search by user? His name's probably Jonathan. We only have foot fetish pics on there. You say that as if that was a bad thing. I mean, I'm not specifically a foot fetish person, but is it under Gegenwind? Gegenwind photo. Here we go. There's some nice pictures on there. Oh, it's very Copenhagen. Oh no, it's actually, it is Copenhagen. I was going to say Amalienborg, Copenhagen, Denmark, Amalienborg, Copenhagen. Nice. So this is the Gegenwind photo. Is Johnson and Halifa. This looks like a bit of a Halifa. That face shield, man. It's pretty cool. Where are the foot fetish pics? How did you do that? That's pretty cool. Nice. That is awesome. That is a lovely picture. I'm going to download that for my personal. I just love water. Oh, Tenerife. Oh, Tenerife is so nice. Katie and me had our first holiday together on Tenerife back in 2002. That was awesome. Fishing string on the exploded one. Okay, so that's not photoshopped. Like that's actually that picture was flagged for containing children, the water one. And that must be some like AI check thing. That's an amazing picture. Was a broken lens. Yeah, I would guess that, but I thought you just like photoshopped this together. I thought like this was like 4 individual pictures. That's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing, pretty cool. Anyway, so what we do, like downloaded that picture. Don't look at all the midget porn. Thank you. We open that in GIMP. Oh, and we have a GIMP update, but we're not doing that right now. We want it to be exactly 16 by 9. So it kind of has to go like this. That's kind of okay. Crop. What? You killed the player already? That's awesome, man. It's good. Yeah, I'm going to join you in a bit. I'm nearly done with this. So why am I doing this? Because I want these to be exactly that size because I established that once. And so we're going to do that. Going to save that. And then I have this very specific style I have for these pictures, and I use a website called Halftone Pro, which I'm actually also paying for. You can see the last pictures I did for the show, and then we upload that picture. It also like if I ever use a picture that's actually like this, where there's actually like copyright problems involved, like I change it sufficiently so that would be considered its own work, I guess. I hope. No lawyer, but now we need like a one way you can still recognize that it's clouds. That doesn't work. Nope. I mean, you can fine tune these, but I never really do. I just use it. I mean, the default one this one's even better. Yeah, at least use that. It's just like a half-tone style, I guess. The cool thing is you could actually download that as an SVG, which is pretty amazing. But we're not going to do that. That's in downloads. I'm going to copy that. Again, don't look at the midget porn. I'm going to go to our folder for the site and just pop that in here. This is actually two parts of the last two episodes are two parts of the same picture. Actually, no. It's like this. This is Plato and this is Aristotle, I think. Is it Aristotle? Anyway, you can see it's kind of like, I kind of thought it was a nice idea because the episodes kind of belong together. It was an accident. You killing that guy was an accident. Was it like an accident like me shooting you in the legs or an accident in air quotes? I feel like shooting somebody in Tarkov is never an accident. Episode 65. Alright. That's nearly exported. That is good. So, the show notes are pretty much done for this one. We need the teaser text, and I'm gonna have to be. I'm gonna put some music on now because I need to think for that one a bit, and I can't talk, and do writing. That's one thing I could never stream because I can't do it. Where the fuck is my audio player? There you are, little shit. All right, think about this. Saw a dude, but totally expected a scav, and then the AK went off. I did the opposite today. I was doing a scav run, come around the corner at the gas station on customs, and there's like a guy standing there with his AK like this, and I was on full auto, and I was like, I didn't even think. I just went. Luckily, he didn't have a stock on his AK, and I missed all the shots. And I was like, "Shit, that's a scav!" Like nothing happened, dude. Opachki.
Opachki.
That was fun. Anyway, let me try to word this. I think that's kind of cool. In this episode, Ubiquiti explains to us how to not run a company. In this episode, Ubiquiti explains to us how to not run a company these days. Put things in the cloud needlessly, fuck up on security not once but twice, and then mislead your customers about it. See how that looks on the front page? That's always my, I always want to be them, have a certain length. I think that works. Right. We just need to wait for this fucker to finish. Actually, it takes so long because it analyzes the whole file and then kind of levels it and compresses it, and then it actually compresses the MP3. It does like this. It's actually meant for like professional podcast producing, like radio stations and stuff. It does this LUFS, LUFS thing. It's like a loudness standard, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool program. It's worth paying for me. Probably only if you do as many podcasts as I do, but I keep telling myself that. Anyway, once that's done, I'm just gonna do some server uploading and then wait for the site to be live, which just takes a few seconds. And then Johnny Boy and me will hit the streets of Tarkov. Okay, so that's done now. What I do here as well is I also do an export. And I will export this as a flag as well. Just in case in the future we want to have any other formats than MP3 or that whatever bitrate I'm using, right? We could always, I don't want to save WAV because that takes long, but we could always re-encode from flag, which is lossless. So I'm also doing that. In the meantime, I'll go to my data drive, go to the episodes, and it always names it like the project, and I never change that generally. So to name that to Private Citizen 59, no, that's wrong. 60, why? Oh, 65, yeah, 65 flag, yeah, right. Anyway, do a sanity check, like open the file. Have a quick listen. Also, take the length. This is a long one. 2 hours. I mean, I've done longer ones, but especially with Mike. 2828. You're listening to The Private Citizen, defending your right to have something to hide, your podcast about anything you need to know to defend your rights as a private citizen. This is episode 65 for Wednesday, the 14th of April, 2021. Underscore the Dane, Galtaran, Mode 7 have recorded that till the end. I always listen to like the front, see if it's like actually that episode that I've exported. I've done that wrong. And I'd like to hear that it doesn't stop exporting. Otherwise, I don't listen to the show anymore. Like, that's why it's live to tape. While we do that, we can actually already upload this. Since I'm doing this on Windows now, I'm using Vanessa.
Tired of feeling like a small fish in a big pond. I think I'll go back where I came from, where everybody knew my name, and all my friends are still the same. I guess the slow life hit me just right, like a bonfire on a cold night. Hell, you can keep your 9 to 5, 'cause I'm happy with the simple life.
But now it's only just on the server, just on the home directory. So now, let's just listen to the end of this. See that what we uploaded is actually good. Yeah, that's good. So now, what I will do now is actually switch to like this camera, because now I will do some server hacking that has some like kind of information I didn't really want to show you, because I don't know. I mean, security by obscurity in itself is not a thing, but there's some things you just don't want to show people if you don't have to. You know, ports and shit like that, and what I'm actually doing on this server. So basically I'm just moving the file around. A bit of shit. I could probably automate this, but I probably should have done so years ago, but I haven't, and so I won't. I mean, this is not a lot of time I'm spending here. It's just so slow because I'm being really careful to not fuck anything up, because that's really dumb if you release a podcast and it's like the wrong episode in the feed or whatever. It's like you don't want to do that. Right, let's move the file to the server, to the directory we want to have it in, and we'll just make sure it actually has the permissions to be read by the world. Then exit this. And I can show you my screen again, because now we're safe. And this is now all correct. Now we actually put the actual time in here. 21, 32, 29. Probably automate all of that, but I don't know. I'm a manual person, what can I say? And now, because the file, I mean, this is just like on a local Hugo server, but like the file is up on the server already. So make sure again that this is the right file. Increment the version number. Shit, yeah, okay, if I do that, it really should do that. Yes, so we're gonna talk about Ubiquiti. Yeah, that's the right episode. So we have that. We've incremented the version number. We have our show notes, and there we go. Released episode 65. All right, commit, push. And this now will kick off. This is going to GitHub, and it kicks off a process with Netlify, which in a minute will make the site be it'll have uploaded the change and then put the site live. Is that everything? Sorry, I'm just confused here for a sec. Can close this now. And then it'll be live. It just takes a few seconds. Usually, I mean, I could have a look at Netlify, but usually it'll take me as long to go there as this will take. My blog takes a bit longer because it's a bigger site. Come on, render my fucking site. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why is this taking so long? This is what we in Germany call Vorführeffekt. And the wife has just arrived and is next to the window. I've always been and always will be your friend. Whenever we have a glass screen, I do like the Shatner scene. So I'm gonna, once this is done, I'm gonna take a quick break and talk to her a bit and ask her how her day was, and then I'm gonna call Jonathan. I'm gonna shoot some more people. He's already started shooting people. Itchy trigger finger. See, now it's online. So now this side is live, and this is here. And this site, I mean, Hugo automatically, while by doing that, generates the RSS feed. So, right, that has the episode in it. So, yeah, it's now live. The podcast is released. We are done. That's what I do. That's the whole podcast episode. I like to do these once in a while. I mean, I was doing this today because I was going to stay online to play with Jonathan. But once in a while, I think it's a cool idea to have to do that. To have to show the whole process. I did that in the first podcast stream I ever did, and then a few times as well. And I think it's kind of cool. Right, what I also need to do now is switch my display settings. I hope this will not kill OBS, but it shouldn't. Just my main monitor. I'll set that to just full HD and cut off the widescreen, so I can stream Tarkov in a bit. Since the wife has to put her bicycle into the garage. Recently played by others. IL2 Stomovic. Oh, Iquix playing Stomovic. Shit, I should actually... That's a game I played in the past that I should play at some point. Let's while we wait. Alright, let's go and put some music on. It's gonna fire up Tarkov already. Jonathan is not with me. Not now, in a bit. Why is this light different? What's going on? It has drooped. My light has drooped. The fucker. Should really get better lighting. I need professional lighting. I'm just using an IKEA lamp that is directed to the wall, and I'm using the indirect light. Come on. Show the people the Tarkovs. What are you doing? What are you doing, game? Why are you not? Yeah, here we go. Oh yeah, red light. Yeah, I want to get a red lamp. I actually think that's cool. So, be like Darnath. I want to beat Darnath with the submarine style. I'll have I'll switch on the red lighting. Anyway, I'm gonna talk to Katie a bit. I'll take another break. I'll be back in 5 to 10 minutes. Oh, Terrestrious Jim. He's gonna ban us. He's gonna ban me from shooting, Jonathan. Already mentally prepared for that. See you guys in a bit. Don't go anywhere.